Nightwing 111, Legacy number 298. Tom Taylor writing with Sami Basri on the art in this issue.
Mhm.
So this is an interesting issue because this kind of kicks off. I actually did hear someone say this is the penultimate arc on
Mhm.
Taylor's run. So I don't know if that's going to end up, but I mean it could be because it feels like we are ramping up to,
Yeah.
wrapping up things that he's been doing since the start of the story. This is obviously seemingly the return of Heartless.
Mhm.
Obviously, by the end of the issue, that doesn't seem actually lightly anymore. It feels like someone's just mimicking Heartless, but someone gets their heart taken out in Gotham, not Bloodhaven,
Yep.
and Batman obviously calls in. Well, he actually calls Barbara because he can't find Dick, and she's like, "Yeah, he's in the shower," and he's like, "Your shower?" It's like, "Get him out here now!
Yeah.
Come on, I need to talk
Wait,
to him."
he's in Gotham at your even better. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to compliment this issue quite a bit. Obviously, I wasn't as into the pirate arc because
Mhm.
whatever. It just felt like
Yeah.
it felt like a fairly light-hearted kind of John. Obviously, there's
Mhm.
a few important things that happened in it for the whole run, but
Yeah.
this to me felt like we were back to maybe not art-wise because it's not Redondo. I think
Mhm.
Basri's solid enough, but it's not the same. It's not as good.
Yeah.
But I think the writing here and the way it's set up and paid some things off in this issue. So Batman swoops down when this guy's been killed, and there's a child, there's a boy, right?
Mhm.
And we get this quick flashback. It just shows, Bruce walking away from his parents in the alleyway, and a shot of Alfred, and then a shot of like Dick in front of his dead parents, and a shot of Bruce at that time, right? And then there's a
Mhm.
quick page, a scene where it's young Heartless, who remember we've established that he witnessed this, and this was kind of what gave him his
Mhm.
taste for murder and death. He says something about that it's the best thing he ever saw, and Alfred hears it outside the tent, and he's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's a horrible thing to say." Um, and when Bruce walks out, he says, "There's a child," right? Which is
Mhm.
mimicking what Batman just said in present day, and it really sets up this idea of the importance of like seeing like this kid who's been left behind after seeing the murder of
Mhm.
his own father.
Yeah.
I thought that was tugging on the strings, and then it paid off even more later
Mhm.
on with Nightwing and the whole like tell him stories. I hear it helps because there's a flashback where Alfred
Mhm.
says, "Hey, Bruce, you need to did you read them a story?" And Bruce's response is, "He can read." And he's like, "I know he can read. The
Yeah.
point is the shared experience. It's the bonding. It'll help
Yeah.
him." And then it pays that off because when Dick's talking to this kid, but then his uncle who's going to take care of him, he says to the uncle, "Read him some stories. It really helps." And you just see
Mhm.
Batman's reaction to it. I thought Taylor was back once again. It tugged on
Yep.
my heartstrings by comparing, Bruce, Alfred, Dick, all of them together, and like what they mean to each other, and like all those
He's
bonds. Just
yeah, he's really good at the interpersonal stuff
so
with these
good,
guys.
so good.
So the whole thing too, and when Alfred kind of guilt trips Bruce, where he's like, "Yeah, I remember a boy who couldn't fall asleep unless I was in the room. My back still remembers all those nights sitting next to your chair." And Bruce apologized. He goes, "No, I'm not saying that to make you feel bad. I'm just saying, like, I was there for you. He might need you. He's not going to say it." And that's where he says, he's reading Tolkien. What can I do? And he gives them basically this Muppet book. That was a Sesame Street book that was called There's a Monster at the End of the Story. And it's all about childhood fears and about, at the end, they keep saying that, there's Grover, there's a monster at the end of the book. And at the end of the book, Grover's the monster. He's been talking to you the whole time. And it's all about this thing of, facing down fear, and it's okay to be afraid, but what's next? And I feel like that is the story of Alfred and Bruce, and then Bruce to Dick, and now Dick to whoever else, going forward. And it's just Taylor playing all of these levels at the same time, and they all end up adding to the overall story.
Yeah, it felt like he was hitting those emotional beats really well and making it feel really important that both Dick and Bruce have this experience dealing with this type of trauma. I thought it was really well done. So Dick goes to meet Batman. There's a cool little moment where he skids his motorbike into like a bunch of dudes. So there's this great panel of the bike sort of sliding and tripping them up. But yeah, so yeah, it's good stuff. Um, Interesting little tidbit as well to do here is that Batman's like, hey, I'm working, I'm getting along better with Montoya, but we need to kind of talk to the kid. She'll probably listen to you better. And Dick just calls her and says, hey, it's Renee, it's Dick. Can I drop by? Which I don't remember Renee knowing his secret identity, but I mean, I guess obviously this is saying that she does, because he shows up as Nightwing. It's not like he shows up as Dick Grayson. But yeah, so they talk to the kid. This is where we get the flashback with Bruce and Alfred to kind of set that stuff up. And then the other thing to pull on your heartstrings here is that this kid is a huge fan of Nightwing. He's got a Nightwing pencil case. He's so happy to see him. He hugs Nightwing instantly. Then they play video games together. It's all very sweet. Which is why it hits a bit harder when the little twist in this issue is that it's clearly implying to me that the uncle did the murder because he wanted all the parents' money. That he's going to receive all that money now because he's looking after their kid, so it's all going to transfer to him. Whether or not he did the murder himself or hired someone, it does seem like he's behind it, because as soon as he's alone with the kid, he starts talking down to him, getting angry with him, saying you'll do what you're told. How dare you get Nightwing involved? They two better not look closely at this. So clearly he's got something to hide. And they kind of, Batman and Nightwing kind of recognize this when they're checking out the body. They're like, hey, this doesn't quite match Heartless. Yeah, it took the heart, but the wound's not the exact same. It's usually cauterized. There's other little things.
There's finesse when Heartless does it.
Yeah.
Here it's really clumsy and heavy and yeah.
Yeah. So it really sets up, and the final panel of the story is the uncle dragging the kid by the arm really roughly, and you can just see the Nightwing pencil case in the foreground. So it's it really sets up that I think this book does a good job of making you want them to save this kid. Like, they've given you a victim here that I think we care about in one issue, and that's really good. And compare that to what I was saying in Superman about not giving a shit about Lexi's mother and her involvement, despite her being around for a few issues. This is how you sort of form a connection, because you compare it to like their own past, so we have context, we understand it. So
right. Yeah, I like too when the whole thing with the kid. You might have said this when I had to deal with whatever we were dealing with. But it was when he goes, "You're on my pencil box," and so the last thing you see is that pencil box with Nightwing on there. And another thing that I like too with the art is that the uncle, when he's talking to Nightwing at the police station, you can see his eyes and he looks, like he's in over his head. When it goes to the kid and you're getting the kid's perspective, there's no eyes coming behind there. It's just the glasses, and it's almost like his mask is off now, right? Like, this is who he really is. And I thought that was a nice touch there with the art.
Yeah. Basri's, fine artist, not my favorite by any means. Certainly, I would love if this was Redondo. I know Redondo's coming back for the next arc, the one that's starting in May or whatever solicits we just got. He's back for that. Obviously, we're doing this little 3 or 4 issue arc right now in Gotham. But I thought this was a really solid issue. It felt like it was back to like dealing with the core ideas of the run. It does bring up again that Nightwing has gained this fear of heights. There's a moment where Batman goes to grapple, and Nightwing's like, yeah, I can't really do that right now. And Batman's like, oh, we'll take the stairs then. But it's kind of like, how long has this been happening? Why didn't you tell me? And he's, he's like, Nightwing basically just says, oh, you were in the middle of a turf war, and there was like the whole Beast World thing. Like, it's not really been a whole lot of time. So, we're establishing all these things and continuing them, building up to the Heartless stuff. So, that was a really good issue. I thought it was back to like dealing with the main things that we care about and sort of hitting those emotional beats that Taylor's been doing since his very first issue. It feels like we're back on track to me with this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. And then there's a backup, which did have Francavilla art, which was obviously pleasant to see. But I will say, I don't know how I really got much out of this, other than the art being nice.
Look, I'll never be mad at Francavilla doing, the blues and oranges. Like, it looks great. I have no idea what happened in the story.
There's someone called Grey, who at the
Uh-huh.
end is called the Grey Sun because he's son of a man called Grey. And he encounters what looks like a court jester who looks like the Joker at the end.
Who's dressed as the Pope.
Who's dressed
And
as
so
the Pope.
It's, well, because from what I got from this, because once it started, I was like, oh my God, this is not Taylor writing. I can already tell just with the way that, right? And it's in 14th century Normandy. And so they're talking about like this attack that had happened and that there's a like a virus that's not the plague going through the countryside. And it compares this virus to revenge. And you see this guy grab like a halberd, and he sees the the wagon that he was living in, which I think is supposed to be like the like a caravan, and that's like it's tying it back to the circus. But I'm like, if this is supposed to be about how the Graysons got their name, I don't necessarily need it.
Yeah, I don't give a shit.
Because the one that I liked in there was that came up during Court of Owls is that he was that down the Grayson line they were meant to be a Talon, and they ended up becoming the Gray Son of Gotham, and that's where the name comes back, and it was almost like Gotham was continually pulling at them, and that's how Dick ends up back there. For this to end up being the Joker Cardinal telling the story, and that comparing this Son of Gray to a demon, it was a little bit much. There was like a hat on a hat, and
honestly, you've spoken more about it than I was ever going to do, because I just felt like I was reading this. It's one of those things where the narration just felt like nonsense to me, where I just I wasn't following it really that well because it didn't really feel like there was much of a through line. And then it got to this ending with this Joker looking dude, and I'm like, okay, I just don't think I like this. I'm okay, Yeah, I don't think I'll read the second part of this because it's part 1 of 2. I don't think I'll read the next part.
I'm gonna read the next part, but I'm not gonna read the dialogue. I'm just gonna look at the pictures and see if I can put the story together. So that's gonna be my challenge, because I'm never gonna skip Francavilla art. Like it's just not. Yeah, it's not something I'm interested in.
This was a big fat nothing. That's all I'll say about it. The art's pretty, obviously, but it's a big fat nothing otherwise. All right, what are you rating Nightwing?
I'm gonna give it a solid 8.
I'm gonna go 8.5, and it would be higher if I liked the art more. I think if this was Redondo or someone of a similar caliber for my taste, I think I'd be really, really, really praising this overall. Yes. As it is, I'm still praising the writing quite a bit, but I'll go 8.5 just on that strength, pretty much alone.